Is that all right if we get going?
Yeah, I'll just keep letting people in. We've got 49 in the meeting. That's a record.
Oh, great. We're up to 49. Perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to
good.
see you all. I definitely have
We've got
seen,
nothing else to do. That's why.
definitely seen some of you in the last week or so on our panel, sort of COVID-19. Everyone do an update last week, so it's nice to see some of you again and some of the faces that I didn't get to see. So welcome to the AGM. I guess I'll call the meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. Mountain. And if I could just, we'll just move into adoption of the agenda. So get a mover on that.
This is Claire. I can
I
move
see
that.
Kelly, and then seconded by Claire. That would be great. Any discussion on that? Any news, notes, opinions? Okay, well, we'll just move to approve those. All in favor? Any opposed? Assume not, so that is carried. Number 3, adoption of the minutes from the 2019 annual meeting. Can I get a mover there?
I'll move that. Karen Davidson.
Karen, thank you. And a seconder, please.
I'll second that. Crystal Leader.
Thank you, Crystal. Any discussion or notes on the 2019 annual meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll motion to have that carried. Or all in favor, I should say, sorry. All in favor to carry that? Okay, great. That's good. Number 4, business arising from the minutes. Hugh, do I need a mover on this?
No, it's just if anybody has something that they particularly want to raise from the minutes. If not, just move on to the next one.
Okay, sure. I'll just take a quick look on all these little micro screens. Did anyone have any business arising? I don't think so, but I'll open it up here for a second if anyone does.
Lisa Gunther here. I was just wondering if kind of what the outcome was with the board discussions on charitable status regarding the PDF fund. PD fund, sorry, not PDF.
We actually didn't get around to it. We spent most of our time on the awards program, and then COVID sort of derailed that. We do need to look at it for the future, so we'll put it on the list again for this year. So we didn't get too far on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
If
Oh,
I may.
did I hear someone?
Yes, Ron McCullough.
Oh, Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, I attended the organizational meetings of the Alberta Farm Writers back in 1954 and 55. And I'm approaching the day when I'm going to donate some savings, and I'm very interested if we can get the charitable status dealt with, because I believe that will attract much more than our present status will do for us. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron. We can definitely follow up on that after the meeting as well. So, but thanks for saying that. Alrighty, well, if there's nothing else, I'll just move into number 5, which is the president's report. I won't bore you with it and read it out word for word. It's in the package that Hugh had sent out. So I guess I'll maybe just open it up to any questions anyone might have, or I can just give a quick recap on things if that's what people would prefer.
Recap by popular demand.
Sure, I'll do a quick recap. I mean, you know, as I said, it's certainly a weird time we all find ourselves in, whether we're freelancers or employed somewhere across the country. But as I kind of said in my report, I've talked to a number of you individually and heard from a number of you as well with our recent panel. And it sounds like, not really a surprise, everyone is really taking this in stride, not to downplay it or anything like that, but it seems like everyone is really trying hard to put a really positive spin on this with their own situations they've and their loved ones find themselves in. So that was just very nice to hear, even for me, because some days I have good days, some days I have bad days with it. And it's just very encouraging to hear from a number of you. So, but it certainly changed things. Obviously, we have no national conference this year, which is a shame because Rachel and the gang in Ontario had planned something quite special in Windsor. And so essentially we're just gonna take a rain check for 365 days and do it kind of around the same time in 2021. And that's unfortunate we can't do it this year, but no one faults Ontario and everyone kind of understands the score as to what's happening. So, I mean, we're all just look forward to 2021 that much more, I think. And I know I'm really looking forward to it. And, you know, if we can do it, I know that Owen had planned a really interesting urban ag tour across the border into Detroit, which would be sweet. So, I mean, if we can keep even some of the elements of the programming for 2020 into 2021, I think it's still going to be a fantastic conference. So I'm still really looking forward to that. But at least we were able to have the 2019 conference before everything got crazy, and many of you were there. So just a shout out to Cheryl and the whole crew in British Columbia that put it together. Rhonda, I think I saw you're on the call, one of these pages of videos. So yeah, thanks to everyone in British Columbia. It was a fantastic time. And yeah, as I said in my notes, I don't know why I don't live there full time, especially when back at Calgary International and it had snowed, I think 2 inches overnight. And I told my wife I'm canceling my ticket home, but I'm still in Alberta. So thank you to everyone in British Columbia. You left big shoes to fill for Ontario. Job well done, absolutely. And really another big shout out to Hugh, to Norma, to Ali. They do really tirelessly just work on our behalf to sort of make things like this possible and do a lot of work behind the scenes that they don't get enough credit for. So thanks to the crew at Quest putting everything together and giving us all giving us all these platforms to connect. So appreciate everyone's help on all of that. And yeah, that's kind of what I got for my big fancy president's report. So does anyone have any questions or thoughts or typos they found? I'd love to hear from you.
I did a spell check on you, Trevor. You're okay.
Okay. That was my real concern. I have to admit. Okay, well, hearing none, that is the president's report, and We'll move on to number 6, which is Secretary Treasurer and Financial. So Hugh, I will turn it over to you.
All right, I'm gonna put it
Yeah,
up on the screen. And yeah, just a reminder, if you haven't muted yourself, please do so we don't get feedback. Thanks. Let me just get this. There it is. Does that come across okay?
Yeah.
If we can see it on the screen. All right, scroll down. So just quickly on the Secretariat, with the administration, I'll get into the finances afterwards. Generally, everything was pretty smooth. We didn't have a conference to organize, and no otherwise big activities outside of normal, because the crew at the BC conference, as crews at all conferences generally do, managed to generate a surplus. And for those of you who are not familiar, we have an arrangement for a 50-50 split between CFWF and the regional association that hosts. And generally that contribution from the conference helps to balance the budget and give us a bit of a surplus so that we can pay for some of the programming without having to raise membership fees and other kinds of things. So the contribution from BC was quite welcome and has put us in good shape, yeah, particularly for this year, because of course there won't be a conference. So I'll give you a bit of an update on that later on. Professional Development Fund, which we'll look at in more detail, finally had an outstanding year with a 20.9% return on the stock market for 2019. And which was fantastic. We've been waiting a long time for that. And of course, that all evaporated within a few weeks, 2020, with the meltdown, and we went all the way up and all the way back down again. So technically, I'm not reporting on 2020, but more or less to report that we're where we're at, plus or minus $40,000 in the fund. In the awards program, again, we'll do the details of that as we go along, but we did, at the board level, struck an ad hoc committee to look at the awards because we hadn't made any substantial changes in the last almost 30 years. We changed a little bit the criteria and things like that, but the categories remained the same. So we had a pretty comprehensive look over several meetings at the categories, came up with some suggestions, and then before we could get it all pulled together in time for this year's competition, COVID arrived and kind of disrailed, as it did with many others activities. The main change that you'll notice this year coming up is that we've aligned the CFWF year with that of IFAJ, so that in the future the entries will be eligible. One of the problems we had in the past was that half the entries that could be considered for the IFAJ Star Prize weren't eligible because they were in the wrong date. So we've got that fixed going forward, and the information on that, of course, has been sent out. And we made some alterations to the photography category as a start, because of course that was fairly easy, or easier than the others. And so that there will be 3 photography categories, again, aligned with those of IFAJ. And out of those 3 categories, we'll select Photo of the Year, which is something other associations do, but we haven't done at CFWF. And before we implemented that on a wider basis, thought we'd give it a try. And of course, even though, again, we're reporting on last year, the focus is on this year, because without a competition, without a conference being held, postponed to next year, we're going to do the awards ceremony. It's traditionally the awards banquet, but we'll do it online, where we will present the winners in September, just as we normally would, but of course it'll be online, so you can still get dressed up and brush your hair and shave those Zoom beards off for the men who've got them, and we'll have a good time. The membership stayed pretty steady at 335, which is where we've been, with a few ups and downs, but the regional associations have done a good job doing the recruiting and bringing numbers in. And it's interesting to note that our membership has been plus or minus 330 for the last 20 years or more. It's remained pretty steady, which I think is quite remarkable given the changes in the landscape for many media institutions. Thanks to all those who've been directors for the year and have participated in the meetings and helped make some of the decisions, your nominees from the regional associations and others. And then the famous conference schedule, which of course, being an institution that plans into the future, we are set all the way through to 2040 for the CFWF annual conference. So you can't say you didn't know. We had to change it a little bit because of the postponement of this year's conference to next year, and also with the fact that we had already entered into an agreement to host the IFAJ Congress in Alberta in 2023, and we couldn't or didn't want to change that, so the rotations changed just a little bit. Although Atlantic Canada was quite relieved that they got to go back to 2024. So there's all the details about the Secretariat, and thank you, of course, always to our sponsors who help out through the year. I'm just going to pause for a second because now I have to stop share just to make sure there's nobody else waiting to get in. Yep. Okay, sorry about that. So any questions on the Secretariat before I go into the financial review? Okay, so the financial review, we have our books reviewed by a bookkeeper, external third party. It's too expensive to have an accountant, sorry, to do it for the full Monty, as they say, but we want to make sure that everything lines up. And so Flo has done it for a number of years for us and make sure that all the paperwork is in place and that the accounts are reconciled. The two things of note was that in 2018, we did take $5,000 out of the Professional Development Fund because CFWF was down to the minimum amount that we need in the bank for cash flow and operations. And that was not repeated in 2019 because we had sufficient funds. And also in 2019, we paid out $2,500 to IFAJ to support young leaders to attend the Congress in Minneapolis, which we hadn't done the year before. The rest of the figures were largely in line with the previous years. And you have copies of them in the report. And I'm scrolling them up. And the 1 weak spot, although it's funnily enough, it seems to have improved this year, is that the sponsors for the awards program have been going down over the years. It's been tough to maintain them. And last year we were missing 4 or 5, I think. And of course, we paid that. That covers largely the prize money for the awards, the $300, $200, and $100 prizes for gold, silver, and bronze. And so that's something that we have been trying to pay attention to. And so far this year, the response has been quite good to the solicitations that Alexandra has been sending out to sponsors. Again, on the expense side, most of the expenses were fairly normal for the PD fund. there was only one application for $2,000, which was funded out of CFWF rather than out of the Professional Development Fund. And we financed a couple of webinars that were hosted by regional organizations. And the other items, again, were fairly consistent, with the notable one where you see my cursor, the $2,500 we paid to IFAJ to support the Young Leaders Program, given that the cost to get to the United States for some of those young leaders was quite expensive. So that was well appreciated. So we ended up with a small surplus of about $3,700, and that was largely due to the surplus of the BC conference, which we always count on to, at a minimum, balance the books, but brought our funding level back up so that we are able to invest in the PD programs and support the awards program. So any questions on the income expenses before I move to the balance sheet? Okay, so then on the balance sheet, oops, this is the Professional Development Fund, sorry. I put them in the wrong order. I should have done the other way. Anyway, so the Professional Development Fund, which has, to just bring everyone to speed, we managed to generate a substantial surplus in from the 2011 hosting of the IFAJ Congress, which was invested into a professional development fund, and which we use each year since then to support different kinds of projects, about 5,000 a year. We have tried as much as possible to fund those applications from general revenues, because the fund not being very big and also not having a huge success with the stock market has not generated generally the returns that we would have liked. So as you can see, at the end of 2018, we had not made any gains whatsoever and had depleted the equity. At the end of 2019, we had gained all that back again for a balance of 47,357, which isn't bad when you consider we've only used 5,000 out of the 50,000, but we haven't managed to build that fund up for the future so it could be self-sustaining, and we'll be reliant on the CFWF board to fund activities going into the future for some time. The overall balance sheet, we have 15,000 in the bank. We have 19,000 in receivables. That receivables is mostly, 2/3 of it was the amount from the BC conference, which it always takes the conferences a while to settle everything. So on December 31st, it was still a receivable. It's since been paid. The other amounts would have been memberships from various regional associations, which have also been paid since then. So combined with the PD fund, total of about 82,000 in assets. Liabilities is the GST, QST refund, which we get generally from our submission at the end of the year. And as I noted, we had a small surplus of 3,600. So it balances out in the end. So any questions on the financial statement in general? If you have anything particular, you can always email me afterwards.
Maybe I could say a word, Hugh. To have a long-term plan for professional development, I think it would be helpful to somehow arrange for endowing the fund and get some of the good old boys like to donate and create a fund that's up in the 500,000, $1 million category, because from that, then that would throw off about $40,000 a year, and the fund would be permanent. So, and if there's a difficulty in achieving charitable status, I think that the PD fund could be some kind of a cooperative venture with maybe 2 universities in Canada, yours, and U of A is doing a major reorganization at the moment. And they also have a PD fund, which I think the farm writers could participate in. And this would be a lot easier than, I think your task of getting charitable status will be a long one. And it may, you have to jump through many, many hoops to do that. Whereas if the Canadian farm writers could set up an endowment with, say, 2 universities in Canada to take care of these needs. So I'll leave it at that. And if anybody wants more information, I think myself or Reg Norby could get it. We both have connections with U of A, and I'm sure Hugh, you can handle it from the Guelph side.
Right, well, that's an interesting comment, and it would be something interesting to look at, to use the facility of somebody else's fund, both in terms of the status and the oomph, as you say, that was the ambition to get it up there. But so it's certainly something that we could look at, and it certainly would help to draw some funds in. So unless there are any comments, I would move the approval of the 2019 reviewed financial statement.
No. Reg Norby, happy to second it.
Trevor?
Okay. Then, well, Hugh, you already talked about the awards program, or do you want to go into that should we talk about that in any more detail, or is that what we talked about okay?
All right, if we're okay with the financial statement, the vote, then the second one is to approve the nomination of Flo. Sorry, I can't even remember her last name. Flo Johnson, as to review the accounts for next year. So I would move that.
Crystal Jorgensen, I'll second.
Perfect. Any opposed to that? I don't think so, but okay, seeing none. Well, that's great. So yeah, I don't think we need to talk about the awards program anymore, unless there are any questions.
The details are in the report.
Yeah.
If there are any questions.
And if anyone, I can't remember if it says in the report, if anyone has any questions that might slip their mind or come to them later, the committee was comprised of myself, Myrna, Tracy, I believe that was it, right? Is that right? I think so. So if you have any questions afterwards, you can contact one of us and chat about it if you like. But if not, we will move on to the Professional Development Fund report. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Grigg.
Thanks, Trevor. And it's good to see all of you. Again, for those of us who were on the call last week to talk about the COVID-19 situation across the country. I don't have a whole lot to add to what Hugh talked about. He gave the kind of the salient challenges that we have with the fund, the long-term challenges with the fund. We had one project we funded this year. I was looking at social media marketing in agriculture. as just very typical of the types of projects we have funded over the years. And we're happy to continue to fund. So, if you're looking at doing some studying, let us know. And we have a process you have to follow, but not too painful. And we'll see what we can do to help you out. I wanted to thank Jane Robinson and Ann Cote, who have helped me out on the Board of Trustees over the last several years. And then Jane and Claire Wooding and William Duque, who have helped out evaluating the potential projects for us. So I think we have that system kind of down and working. And then just the long-term question over: do we try to add more to that fund to make it more self-sustaining, or is there that's needed among the membership over what should happen to that money? Is there something that we can do that's more impactful with that money for the federation? So I will leave that up to the board and the greater discussion of the group. But yeah, the mediocre, to say the least, returns that you get on the with a foundation-based fund of that size is a challenge for us. And thanks to the CFWF board, which has stepped up several times to inject a bit more money to allow us to fund more projects. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Jessica Goose here from Alberta. Just wondering, how much do we typically put into that fund every year?
So we don't actually, I do mean that the board ends up topping up, or that,
yeah,
I am not totally sure. It varies year to year, certainly. Sometimes varies depending on how many projects, how many people apply for funding. Last year there was one, so it was for $2,000.
It's in between $2,000 and $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. There's the answer. Yeah, $2,000 to $5,000 from the CFWF board.
Yeah, I would say just for what I've seen on boards in the past, it's smart to just have some sort of trailing number go in, whether people are using it or not. Like if you only had about, I don't know, 1 or 2 people like last year, one person is last year use it, then maybe only top it up a little bit, and then compared to the next year, if there's 5 people that apply for stuff, then put more into it. But I feel like we should kind of continue that to grow.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that.
Anyone else? If not, I will send it back to Trevor.
Okay. So we will move on, I guess, and the IFAJ report is next. So that is in your package as well. Just a show of hands from everyone who's on the call. Just, if you've been to an IFAJ Congress, put up your hands. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much seeing most of the hands up, and by 2023, all those hands should be up because Alberta's hosting. So that was just a very quick and easy way to kind of just show the not only the importance of the IFAJ, but also just how well received it is by Canada. We have a really wonderful legacy of participating in the IFAJ. Owen, who is on the call, he is the outgoing president of IFAJ. Canada's really well represented, and often we have one of the bigger contingents. So it's really cool because it was, kind of started as a Eurocentric organization, and it's quickly started to become more global in nature, and Canada has played a vital role in that. So I think it's pretty cool. So on that, with IFAJ goings on, Allison Finnemore, where's Allison? Oh, there she is. She's hiding in the bottom right. It's like Hollywood Squares. Allison was the IFAJ rep for us for, I think, about 5 or 6 years, and did a fantastic job. And I am now the rep. I've taken over for Allison. And so I'll just update you quickly on some things. So the IFAJ Executive Committee met in Switzerland in late February, and I think they did some committee shuffling. Canada is now on the host liaison committee, which makes sense given that Canada is an upcoming host, and all the other nations that participate on that subcommittee with me are either recent hosts or upcoming hosts. And so we all have a lot to learn from each other, and just hearing kind of what works and what's not working, hearing the challenges that are sort of similar and unique to different countries. Even though the conferences are all over the world, we can still learn different things from each other. But obviously COVID has reared its ugly head, and there is no Congress this year. So what was supposed to actually be happening pretty soon in Denmark is no longer. And so that's a shame. And the Danish Guild sort of, they had to cancel, obviously. And so unfortunate as that was, what has happened was our 2021 hosts, which was Australia, they also had to cancel because they had their horrible wildfires that has ravaged the country, perhaps worse than any wildfires in my lifetime anyways. Couple that with the COVID pandemic, and couple that too with the fact that Australia is usually one of a nation that usually takes longer to recover from economic hardships than a lot of others. So they pulled the plug for 2021. However, not all was lost. Basically, it reopened the door for the Danish Guild to say, hey, we could actually re-host, not even re-host, but kind of do what Ontario did, push this down the road a year from now and still hopefully hold what would largely be the same or a pretty similar conference. And so that is what we're thinking is going to happen. The decision is sort of before the Danish Guild right now. They're having their national AGM later this month, and all indications that we've heard is that they will approve this and go ahead with it. They may have different people who will sort of take over some of the hosting duties. I think there was sort of that natural level of disappointment and maybe frustration that they couldn't host it, which who could blame them considering the sweat equity they put into it over the last number of years. But nonetheless, so the hosts of from the Danish Guild might change hands, but the plan is to still have the same conference, roughly speaking, in the same location at roughly the same time. And so that's pretty cool, because from everything that I've heard from Per Henrik, who was one of the chief organizers, is that they've got some pretty legit stuff planned. And I think everyone would have been, excuse me, really sad if it just was all for naught. So now there is a conference that will be salvaged and sort of pulled out from the fire, which is pretty sweet. So 2021, mark it down, June. IFAJ will still go ahead in Denmark. So that's sort of the silver lining to all of this. But as far as Australia goes, they will not be hosting at all. They just sort of have removed their name entirely from it because it's just not economically feasible for them. And they were thinking, and many countries do reach out to either their sort of state or national governments for some financial assistance. And the message that they had heard was that's not possible, and that's very low on our priority list given everything that's going on. So it was an unfortunate decision for Australia, but in a sense it was also an easy one. What else can I tell you? The upcoming dates for the congresses you can see in the report. 2022 will be taking place in Switzerland, 2023 here in Alberta, 24 will be in Israel, 25 Kenya, and 26 will be in Croatia. And so that might seem like a slight insignificant detail, unless you really want to go to all those countries. But the one piece that's interesting about that is, again, IFAJ has quickly become, they've started to take the I a lot more seriously, the international, and it is what historically was a very Eurocentric organization, has started to really branch out outside of Europe and has now 50 plus member countries. And so you can see that there is a 4-year break in between European hosts. And that was done by design to hopefully stoke the fires in a good way, to really expand IFAJ's reach and not just have it sort of be a European guild where they let other countries sort of tack onto the fun. So that was a very conscious effort, and everyone in the host committee, and there are a number of Europeans in there, they were all actually excited for this as we sort of lined up the dates. And I was excited to see it too, because I think there's a lot of great guilds out there, especially in Africa. And I think it's time that IFAJ starts to highlight these guilds and really get them involved to a greater extent. So, Owen, I don't know if you wanted to say anything, just sort of as outgoing IFAJ president, or tack on to anything I just mentioned. But if you would, give you the floor and you can toss in some comments. You're on mute, Owen.
There we go. Thanks, Trevor. I won't go into this in great detail because it's still kind of evolving, but there's a movement afoot to have an IFAJ e-Congress for Denmark in a couple of weeks. Don't know how it's all going to work out, because it's just like a lot of things with COVID, where everyone pivots. Word of the decade, word of the year anyway, pivoting. So IFAJ is trying to do that a bit, and maybe bring forward some of the good speakers that were lined up for Denmark, as long as it doesn't cut into their plans for next year. So please stay tuned. This will all develop over the next couple of days, or not, but hopefully it will. Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'd like to say about IFAJ is how much I appreciate the support that Canada has given me over the last several years. You have to be nominated by your guild in order to seek a position on the IFAJ Presidium, and CFWF has stood by me for the last 12 years on the Presidium, and I really appreciate it. So thanks very much. I think Kelly was the first one to nominate me, and going back about 1,000 years ago, Karen Davidson was the first one who said to me, "You should really be involved in CFWF." So thanks to both of you in particular for being there for me.
Great, thanks, Don.
Trevor, just one editorial in your report. I think it should be 2021 for Denmark, not 2020.
Oh, okay. Thanks for
just
that.
A typo.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's my middle name, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Don. Appreciate those thoughts there. And if anyone has any follow-up questions on the IFAJ, just drop me a line, or, I mean, you saw everyone's hand who's gone up. So if you ever have a question about IFAJ, I think you can pretty much contact anyone who's been on this call. So,
Trevor, just one last
thing.
It'd be a major omission if I didn't mention Allison as well. You did as well. Allison really helped put Canada on the map with IFAJ, particularly with her work on all the contests that she's done. And she also did some work on the code of conduct, which is going to come up a little bit later. But I'd also like to assure CFWF that we're in very good hands with Trevor now being our IFAJ rep. Trevor hasn't been there long enough to get many gray hairs in this respect. I feel like he will, and he's really doing an excellent job internationally. So, so Trevor, thanks for assuming that position from Allison, and Allison, thanks for all your hard work over the years.
Yeah, big thanks to Allison for sure. So, and thanks Owen for your commitment to IFAJ too. Okay, so we will move on. The conference reports, we're not going to read those out loud. That would be painful and cruel to all of you. But please, print them out and read them as you're falling asleep tonight. Take a look at all those and contact the local guilds if you got any questions or just want to say, job well done to the BC group again, just for their conference, whatever it might be. But yeah, we'll be passing over those. I'm getting slightly ahead of myself, but number 10, the conference report. We do want to hear from the BC group. So I'm not sure if that will be Myrna or Rhonda or someone else, but I will turn it over to whomever I'm going to turn it over to, just to maybe say a word or two about BC.
So I can't see Rhonda on my screen. So Rhonda, if you want to do this, you're welcome to. Rhonda and I.
No, I'm going to let you do it. Carry on.
Rhonda and I co-chaired registration for the conference. I think most of it's been covered. So I just don't, except for thank yous to sponsors and thank yous to people coming out that are echoed. I'm not going to reiterate, how much money was made or whatever, except to say that we did appreciate your patience when things changed last minute. And yeah, that happens from time to time, but it's really testament to the personalities and of our membership that they can just pivot, which is my new word, which I hate. Thank you very much. That's my word.
Okay, that's great. Well, yeah, thanks again to the BC crew for everything you did there. So now we will move on to number 12, which is our board elections. And so behind the scenes, as we were all exchanging laundry bags full of money, Owen has agreed to share the nomination election process, the whole thing. So thanks Owen for just agreeing to do that piece for us. Appreciate your help on that. But Hugh, I'll turn it over to you and away we go.
All right, thanks, Trevor. So the election process that we have is fairly structured. Each of the regional associations nominates a representative to the CFWF Board of Directors, and those associations, which this year will be Alberta and Eastern Canada, have the right to nominate two because they have over 80 members in their association. So well done on that. And so essentially they nominate their representatives to the board. There are two positions at large, one for East, one for West. And if there are more than one nominee for each of those, then we have to figure out how to do an election. Just a little bit of trivia quiz. Can anybody tell me how many times we've actually had an election for East and West?
Once.
Very good, Reg. You get a free membership for the rest of your life.
Sure.
And then at the end of the process, the slate of directors is approved by the meeting with a single motion. And typically we get Owen to chair the election, as he's, with his duties on the IFAJ, has not been on the board for some years, so as a neutral person. So I'll hand it over to Owen to take it away.
Okay, thanks, Hugh and Trevor. So what we normally do, folks, is go from west to east. And I think that's the way we'll do it this time. And we will, Hugh, should we accept the whole slate, or how should we do this?
The way you should do it is call for nominations from each one of the regional associations. followed by the nominations for East and West. And then once that's all been done, we'll do the slate at the end.
Okay, thanks. So on behalf of the BC Farm Writers Association, we're looking for someone to nominate Myrna Stark Leader as their representative on the CFWF board.
I so nominate.
Seconded.
Okay, great.
That was obscenely fast, BC people.
Good speech.
Yes, Myrna, do you have anything to say?
I welcome
She
being
just fainted.
again if I get elected. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Myrna. I heard Dave, but I couldn't see who the second person was. Did
Rhonda.
It was Rhonda, me.
Okay, thanks, Rhonda.
And we were so fast because we were scared that we'd get nominated.
Okay. Okay, so so far so good on BC. So Alberta Farm Writers Association, we're looking for a nomination for Trevor Back and Tracy Feist as their representatives on the CFWF board.
I so nominate.
Anne-Marie seconds.
Claire and Anne Marie, thank you.
We can be speedy too, you know.
Yeah, you Alberta people. Trevor and Tracy, anything you would like to say?
Thank you, guys. I look forward to continuing to serve.
Yes, likewise. I look forward to serving CFWF as well in this capacity.
Good, thank you. On to Saskatchewan Farm Writers Association. We are looking for a nomination for Crystal Leader as the Saskatchewan representative on the CFWF board.
I so nominate.
And Diane seconds.
Lisa and Diane, thank you. Crystal, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you guys for nominating me again.
Okay, thanks. Manitoba Farm Writers and Broadcasters Association, looking for a nomination for Crystal Jorgensen as the Manitoba representative on the CFWF board.
Ashley Robinson will nominate her.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. The seconder from Manitoba.
I'll second that. It's Carly Reimer.
Okay, thanks, Carly. Crystal, words of wisdom?
The power. The power. Thanks, everyone.
Former president gets into a board position. Okay, ECFWA. Looking for someone to nominate Rachel Telford and Mary Feldskoff as the two representatives on the CFWF board. Eastern Canada.
Megan Burke here. I'll nominate both of them happily.
Thanks, Megan. Seconder, please. Karen Davidson. Okay, Rachel and Mary. You know what? I was supposed to say, do you accept the nomination? I just assumed everyone did. So I guess I'll start saying that now. Rachel.
We were already went, yeah, we went, I guess we already accepted at the regional level. So I'll officially accept now today. Sure. Yeah. Pleasure to serve again this year. Thank you.
And as will I.
Good. Thanks, Rachel and Mary. Atlantic Canada Farm Writers Association, looking for a nomination for Alison Finnemore as the Atlantic Canada representative on the CFWF board. Anybody else besides Alison from Atlantic Canada on the at the meeting today?
Andy Walker.
And that was Andy Walker, Owen.
Okay, sorry, couldn't hear very well. Andy had nominated, is there a seconder available?
Can I second that from Ontario?
Sure.
Sure, okay, thanks, Kelly. Allison, do you accept this nomination?
I do. Although Atlantic Canada, it's not too soon to start talking about succession, so get on your radar.
Lots of luck with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Allison. And then Hugh, can we move on now to members at large?
Yes.
Okay. We're looking for a nomination from someone to nominate Ann Cote as the Western representative.
It's Crystal here. I don't know if Anne is on the call. I've tried to reach her. I think we have another name.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sorry. Go ahead, Crystal.
Yeah. And I'm going to pass that nomination over to the person that was going to nominate her. I think that was Carly.
Yeah, Carly Reimer here. I would like to nominate Ashley Robinson for the Western Director at Large.
Okay. Ashley, do you accept that nomination?
I do.
Okay, thanks.
This is Lisa Gunther. I'll second that nomination.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Any more nominations from the West? Okay, and from Eastern, as the Eastern representative, looking for someone to nominate Hugh Maynard as the Eastern representative member at large. Anybody from the East?
I would be happy to nominate Hugh.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Karen Davidson. Seconder, please.
I would second that.
Sorry, was that Lillian?
It was.
Okay, thanks, Lillian Chair. Seconder. Hugh, do you accept this nomination?
Can I think about it?
Yeah, you have 5 seconds. Thanks, Hugh.
Okay.
Okay, and
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, thank you. I do believe that constitutes an entire board membership now.
Right. So you need a motion, mover and a seconder to approve the slate.
Okay, looking for a mover and a seconder to approve the slate. Anyone?
I can move for it. Ashley Robinson here.
Ashley, okay, thanks. Seconder?
No, Ashley, you're part of the slate. You can't do that.
Whoops, sorry.
I move that we accept the slate as presented. This is
Yeah,
your
Second it.
We're just making stuff up here, Ashley. Sorry.
Sorry, who
Elaine?
moved?
Elaine. Shane moved it.
Elaine, thank you.
Jessica, second it.
Jessica, seconder. Okay, thanks.
All right.
We can have a show of hands because we can all see each other. All in favor of this slate?
Reg Norby is happy to move the slate.
Okay, Reg, sorry, someone beat you to it. But you can still vote, though. Anyone opposed? Okay, there is our CFWF board.
All right, look at that. So that is wonderful. Thank you, Owen. Appreciate your help on that. And everyone, looking forward to another year of terror that we will rain on the rest of CFWF. So let the fun begin. That's very exciting. No, that was the big piece of fireworks, I suppose, for this meeting. So that was the last piece of thing. The last piece of business on here. So, wow, this might be a record. It's
we have a new business. New business.
Yeah, we've got new business, but even still, I'm just talking out loud. Number 13, new business. This would be where you, just tell us what's on your mind. We've got apparently this Zoom meeting never ends, so we can be here for another 10 hours if we need. So let's just go around the horn.
Trevor, it's Rachel here.
Yep.
If you don't mind, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to address a few things that I think I was supposed to speak to, but didn't raise my hand fast enough. So back with the IFAJ discussion, I just did want to mention that we were in the process of going through the applications for the Bayer-versary to send one of our members to IFAJ. And there was talk of the Congress being canceled at that time. but we decided to move forward with selecting a candidate anyways, with the understanding that whoever was selected, if they couldn't go this year, would then go next year. And Bayer, we gratefully, I really appreciate the fact that they agreed to allow us to keep the funds and use them for next year. So I just did want to mention that Ian Doig from Alberta, from Grains West, is the recipient of the Bayer bursary. So congratulations to him, and he is aware that he will be accepting it for next year. We have not made it official, made the official announcement on social or with a press release quite yet. We are waiting for that official determination from Mark that they will be hosting next year. So once that officially gets determined, then we will be doing all the usual social and press announcements to that. So I did just want to mention that here to everybody, so that they're aware that despite the difficulties with COVID-19 and the delays, that is still happening, and it's a wonderful benefit of being a CFWF member to be able to apply for that bursary to IFAJ. And I wanted to make sure that we did, again, say thank you to Bayer to continue to sponsor that. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions about the bursary, or if Ian wanted to, I know he's on the call, if you wanted to say anything about that.
Well, I certainly, I would go now or next year or the year after that or whenever. Thrilled to be, thrilled and appreciative of receiving the bursary. Great that Bayer has continued to support it, and just a big thanks. I can't. I really can't. I can't wait. I don't think I can wait till next year. I'd love to go. I'd really like to be there this month, but if I gotta wait a year, I gotta wait a year.
And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about as well, if you guys would be willing to give me another minute, is the conference that ECFWA was planning for this year. Hugh, I think, did a good explanation of it when he went through the decision to postpone. But it was really a tough decision for the planning committee for the conference. We have 15 members on the planning committee for the CFWF conference, which I think is amazing. A lot of hard work went into planning the conference, and we really do appreciate all of their efforts. And it was a major disappointment when we started to realize the impact that COVID-19 was having on our plans for the conference. With travel restrictions in place and expected to get even worse, and we have seen that come with, in terms of restrictions on interprovincial travel, and with the airlines reducing their flights. We knew that if we went forward with our plans, we'd probably be looking at reduced attendance at the best, and at worst, the inability to even hold the conference at all. So we really did feel it was a prudent decision to make, to cancel. And I want to also thank Saskatchewan and Karen and Atlantic Canada and Allison for the conversations that we had in terms of them agreeing to postpone their events so that we could still hold our event, albeit a year later. So a special thank you to everybody who is allowing us to hold this conference next year. As I said, we do have a lot of plans in place. I really hope that by next year that we will be able to hold the conference with travel restrictions no longer in place, and people healthy and safe, whether that's with new health measures in place or a vaccine or whatever it takes us to be able to gather again in groups. So all of the plans that we do have for this year have been already transferred to next year as much as we can. We are very fortunate that all of our hotels, our hotel venue, our conference venue, has agreed to the postponement without any additional fee, as well as the buses and our Friday night venue. They've all agreed to the postponement as well without any difficulties. So we're really thankful for that as well. So if you do want to come to Windsor next year, the dates are going to be Thursday, September 23rd to Saturday, September 25th. So it is that same weekend time frame that we were planning for this year, just next year. And for those of you who are coming from across the country, if you're not going to travel directly to Windsor, there was a great bus tour planned from Toronto to Windsor by Megan Burke that hopefully we can for next year. And that, even if we're all wearing masks, maybe that's a good way to get to Windsor. If you want to work in if you want to really get in a lot of travel next year because you can't do any this year and want to plan an expanded trip to Ontario and make Toronto your hub, then make sure you consider that as an option. So those are just a few comments. Happy to answer any questions that people have about decision to postpone or any other comments you might want to share. Thank you.
All I would say is that's a big job to do, and I appreciate you guys doing it. And if you need to seek solace and advice from everyone, give Allison a call. I believe you had to cancel something right when it was starting because of 9/11.
Oh, well, yeah, a couple of parties. So while I'm unmuted, can I move along to other new business?
You go right ahead.
Okay. So I just, Owen mentioned it earlier that about a code of conduct. And so just recently we just decided that the CFWF executive, we decided we should have a code of conduct in place. And I always feel like, CFWF is a bit like a teenager, even though we're like 65, and we're still growing up in a lot of ways and becoming more formalized. And I think this is another step along that way. So as a freelancer, I believe strongly in recycling work. So we took the IFAJ code of conduct and are working at recycling that and just changing some of the wording and some of the nuances and making it our own for CFWF. And yeah, it's just sort of, expectations, what the expectations are. It's a code of conduct. So if you want to have a look at it, you can look at the IFAJ one. It's on the IFAJ website. And we should have this one probably, in the next couple of weeks, ready to bring back to the CFWF board. And I'm not sure what the process will be after that. Will we approve it at the board level and then sort of trickle it down to the associations? Is that how that will work? Someone who knows?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Can I ask quickly, is this part of the process to go nonprofit? I know we did that with a club I belong to here, and we had to develop a code of conduct as part of that.
Not deliberately, but if it helps, then yes. Then yes, it is.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Allison. Does anyone else have any new business that they would like to bring up?
Trevor, it's Lillian here. Not necessarily new business perhaps, but would you be able to provide the group with a brief update on the IFAJ 2023 Canada Congress, if there is anything at all, whether you're looking for help or where you're at in the planning process or how the rest of us can get involved? Yeah, can you just speak to that, I guess?
Yeah, you bet. Right now, we are, we had some of our momentum delayed, obviously, just given everything with COVID, but where we're at right now is we had, and if anyone did not ever see the email, maybe just raise your hand so I can send it to you, but I had sent an email to Hugh for distribution to all the regional guilds. Just basically it was a call for help for anyone who wanted to become involved with planning the IFAJ outside of Alberta. After we sort of tapped all of our Alberta members who wanted to be a part of it, we reached out beyond the borders to BC to our left and the rest of Canada to our right. So we've got, we had about 35 people express interest in wanting to be a part of it, which is great. And right now, with committees formed, really the big line item that we're working on right now is, I mean, essentially sponsorship will be ongoing right up until the conference, it seems like. So that's already underway with that committee. And the other piece of the puzzle there is so working to sort of develop loose programming, I suppose, figuring out hotel accommodations, that sort of thing, because the plan for anyone who is uneducated about Alberta geography, it will not be in Calgary, it will be in Olds. And Olds is the home of Olds College. It's an agricultural college. It's a very wonderful spot. It's about, well, it depends how fast you drive, about 40 minutes north of Calgary. And so that's where it's going to be located. And Calgary hosts this little thing every year called the Stampede. And unfortunately what happens is basically the room rates skyrocket. So even to stay in the city, not necessarily in downtown, but even just in and around different venues leading up to Stampede and certainly during Stampede, it can get quite pricey. So I believe it was Anne-Marie, who's one of the co-chairs, who's on the call. I believe it was her bright idea to look at the Olds position and also engage them, because there's a hotel, the Pomeroy, that's adjacent or actually attached to the college. So that is where we're headed there. So working to secure that, that'll be a big piece of it, as well as sort of, like I said, some of that loose programming, because Canada Day that year, Canada Day is on a Saturday. And so we want to do something special for all of our international guests, of course, on the actual day itself. So starting to kind of dream up designs on that. The co-chairs, the other co-chair, Cole Christensen, he's not on the call right now. He had another call to be in, but the three of us have to meet again and essentially start to divvy up some work and really start to move things along, in addition to a couple of those aforementioned committee sponsorship and then venue. So it still seems like it's not that far away, but it is and it isn't, depending on what committee you're on, of course. And we do have a list of everyone from across the country that is looking to be on the different subcommittees, and probably within the next few months, I would expect that all of those committees will start to be engaged in different things, whether it is starting to actively work on pieces of the puzzle towards 2023, or just start to prepare to get ready to move on those different action items that'll come up. So that's kind of the update in a nutshell. Don't know what else I can say at the moment. Does that help, Lillian?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, you betcha. Any other new business from anyone on the call? Okay, well, hearing none, then I will move on to number 14, which is adjournment. So I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 2:16 p.m. Mountain. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming and participating, being a CFWFer, and helping our great organization continue on. So thanks to everyone for coming. I appreciate your time.
Well done, Trevor.
Well done.
Well
Take care,
done.
everybody.
Stay safe.
Farewell.
Thanks, Trevor.
Bye.
Thanks, Trevor.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's all right.
Bye.
Everybody wants to see who's the last one out.
I always stay because I think I'm in trouble. So
I can't find the leave button. There it is.
I can fix that for you.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
okay, take care.